Hello and welcome to another episode of Route 1 Football, the football preview show brought to you by Star Sports. Joining me at Curzon Street, this wonderful Star Sports betting shop, I have two doom merchants, Robbie Savage and Alex Crook. We're going to start off with a bit of negativity in this episode, unfortunately, but it has to be done. Relegation contenders, who are going to be battling down there above the drop zone, who's going to slip into the drop zone, who's going to be right in the middle of that dogfight?
Well, it doesn't take a genius, I don't think, to work out that Luton and Sheffield United are both up against it. There's been talk, will Luton set a lower points tally than Robbie did with Derby back in the day? I don't think that will happen. I actually think I can see what they're doing, Luton. They're trying to sign players that they think could be a success in the Premier League. And if they're not, when they go back down into the Championship, they'll have a squad capable of competing. I think it's quite smart.
They are definite Championship players, though, aren't they? There's a big risk to try to do that and, get them in the first Premier League season to get them all gelling together. Yeah,
Bournemouth did it a little bit last season. When you look at Marcus Tavernier, we weren't necessarily sure if he'd make the step up, and he did. So there is a model to follow. But I think you're right. I think even Rob Edwards would admit that Luton are up against it.
So, listen, obviously I listen to you on the radio a lot, and the Norwich model. Do you think Luton should have a go?
That would come back to haunt me, wouldn't it? In fact, I was proved right in the end. We're in Norwich now. They're not on this list, are they?
Should have a go?
No, I think Luton are doing it the right way.
So Norwich didn't?
Norwich, first time round when they got promoted, fine. But they kept doing it, didn't they? Kept going up, not spending any money, kept going down again. That was the point that I made.
Sooner or later you get caught out, don't you?
I think I agree with Alex that Luton, they'll get more than 11 points. One win against Newcastle, Kenny Miller with a goal, if you remember it, for Derby in that season, 8 draws. I couldn't...
They won one game.
Do you think any team will ever break that record, though? It's abysmal.
It was abysmal. But
embarrassing.
Yeah, totally agree. What you'll find is, though, that confidence plays a huge part in the fan base. Derby, there was huge expectations, 30,000 fans every week. And as soon as you start losing games, the confidence drains, and it's hard. It comes a point where you don't even get in your car to go and play at home because it's that hard to play 30,000 fans. It's okay, people saying, well, a win will come. But when you've spiraled into that, the depths of you cannot see a result coming anywhere, it's very, very difficult. So if Luton start like that, I think a positive would be that they're not playing in front of 30,000 at home. They're 13, 14,000.
Nothing's expected of them, basically, is it?
But Derby, there was an expectation to stay up. But Luton, I think everybody, as we're predicting now, will go down. So, listen, they'll beat 11 points. I've got no doubt about it. Sheffield United, can they replicate the season they had when Chris Wilder played that expansive, the 3 centre-halves, 2 centre-halves attacking? I think Paul Heckingbottom done great to get them up, but I think they'll go down as well. And who joins them? I think that is a big question. I've gone with Wolves. I think Wolves, they've lost too many good players and not replaced them with the same quality. So I think it'll be those 3.
Just on Luton, how much of a leveller is Kenilworth Road? Because this is a real throwback of a stadium. A lot of the big players in the Premier League won't be used to that kind of surroundings, particularly under lights. I remember covering Portsmouth when they first got in the Premier League under Harry Redknapp, and nobody liked going to Fratton Park.
They're not going to like those dressing rooms, are they?
No, but I think as a footballer, when you cross that white line, it's the same dimensions. You go and play, and at times, it'd be like if Luton Town supporters can create it like an FA Cup atmosphere on that day when the big teams visit, they'll have a chance. Listen, Rob Edwards, let's not underestimate him. What he's done for that football club, but was it 13,000, 14,000 Kenilworth Road? I'm not sure what is the
I'm not even sure it's quite as much as that.
No. But Bournemouth has shown with a capacity of 12,000, 13,000 that they can stay in the Premier League.
A bit more glamorous though. The vitality. It's not quite It's not quite such a relic as Kenilworth Road.
Yeah. So
great place to go and watch football though.
I've never been to Kenilworth Road. I was in the playoffs with Crew in 1990, early 90s or late 90s. I can't remember what it was. We played Luton in the semi-final for Crew, and I played in every game and got left out of the semi-final playoffs by the manager.
Were you that bad?
No, I don't know why. I played 40 games out of 46, and the ones I missed, I was on international duty with my country Wales, and the manager, because I didn't sign a new contract. I got left out of the playoffs. And that season, Crew beat who in the playoff final? Now a Premier League team.
Go on.
Brentford.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they left you out and won promotion?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
A team we haven't mentioned, and I'd like to know why, Burnley. Why do you think they won't be in and amongst it this season?
I think people are not putting them there because of the Vincent Kompany factor, because they got so many points last season, because they have been active in the transfer market. They paid big money for James Trafford, who of course was the England goalkeeper who didn't concede a single goal as they won the under-21 Euros. But I genuinely don't know what to expect from Burnley, because I think he's going to stay true to his principles. I think they'll try and play football like they did in the Championship. I think as a result of that, they could be on the end of one or two hidings.
Like in the FA Cup against City.
Yeah. So I think they'll be down there. But out of the three, I think they probably are the best equipped to stay up.
How important is it, or how important will it be around Christmas time, who's in those bottom three places?
History tells us if you're in the bottom three at Christmas, then you're going to struggle to stay up. So I think, like all promoted sides, those first few weeks are important. You're riding the crest of a wave. You've got the momentum. That tends to be when they pick up their points. If they're all down there come Christmas, second half of the season does become a slog.
Do you think so, Robbie? If they're all three of those teams are down there, do you think it'll be really difficult for them to turn that around and climb out?
Yeah, it will, and it depends how far away those teams are if they are down there. But you know, Burnley, I agree that they play expansive football. I don't think he'll change his principles. You know, I know Craig Bellamy well. I know on the training pitch he'll be trying to get every single ounce of energy and, you know, what he's like as a character. I think, you know, it's a good blend, him and Vincent Kompany. I think Burnley will be okay. I really do. You know, only because I think Sheffield United and Luton are probably not as good as Burnley. That's the only reason I think they'll stay up. You know, on a previous episode, somebody said that Burnley might finish 10th, which, like, I was blown away by that. But I think they'll stay up.
Well, I'm glad you're paying attention, Robbie. We'll see. We'll see how it all pans out. Okay, so I think we're in agreement. It's going to be Luton Town and Sheffield United in those bottom three places, but we haven't quite worked out who's going to be in the third position. Nobody has mentioned any of these other teams: Everton, Wolves, Fulham, Palace, Brentford. Do you see any of those being involved in the dogfight this season?
Well, just looking at the list there, I don't really understand why Bournemouth are third favourites ahead of Burnley. I think they've got some good players. They played some brilliant football last season. They were 2-0 up at Arsenal, 1 at Spurs.
They've got a manager who hasn't been in the Premier League before, though, so it's a bit of an unknown quantity.
Yeah, but nor is
perhaps.
Roberto De Zerbi, and they see similarities, the recruitment team at Bournemouth with Iraola and De Zerbi. So I think they'll be fine. Certainly, I think Burnley should be a shorter price than them. Forest, I don't think will be down there, because I think the players they signed last season will gel.
What about Crystal Palace? I mean, they've lost Wilfried Zaha, potentially going to lose Michael Elise as well. Do you think they'll be sucked in?
I think they're still strong defensively. If they can keep Joachim Andersen and Mark Gahey, I think they'll be okay, Palace. I'm loath to agree with Robbie, but I think Wolves are going to be right down there. Lopetegui's a good coach, but has he got the tools?
And they can't
this
score
season?
goals.
They can't score goals. They've lost one or two crucial players, Neves and Collins, who've moved on. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it was Wolves. We talked on a previous episode. We clear to see how much Robbie loves Sean Dyche. He's put Everton to basically finish in the Champions League places, I think. I think they'll be down there. They've got no money to spend. Calvert-Lewin can't stay fit. I would make them a relegation candidate. Brentford are interesting. They're the biggest price of the teams that we've got on the screen. But without their talisman for the first half of the season, it's going to be really fascinating to see how they solve that Tony conundrum.
I think they've strengthened those well. Brentford, Nathan Collins from Wolves, I think that's a very, very good signing. But I think Wolves will be in the bottom three.
Right, we're going to have a little chat about the teams that have been tipped to go down. I need to know which ones you think are going to be safe from relegation this season.
I think Brentford will be fine once again. I think, you know, obviously not having Ivan Toney till January.
Mm-hmm.
January is obviously a huge blow where the goal is going to come from, but I think in Nathan Collins they've strengthened well. Everton, again, I think will be fine with Sean Dyche.
You like him?
They only had 36 points though their last season. I mean, by the skin of their teeth, the previous two seasons.
They basically stayed up on the basis of that win at Brighton.
Who's your bottom three?
I put Wolves in there, but
Everton,
it wouldn't surprise me if it was Everton.
You said
Can I send 4 down?
Well, Everton going down or not?
Can I send 4 down?
And Everton going down.
Possibly.
Well, you can't say possibly. Are they going down, yes or no?
At the moment, I would say Wolves, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Everton
It wouldn't surprise me. I'll tell you what they're not going to do.
So I was right.
They're not going to finish top 10.
Definitely
They might not, but they weren't going to go down.
So we think Everton are going to stay up then. What about Forest?
I do.
Forest
Forest are definitely going to be
I think
okay.
Forest will be fine, particularly with that home record.
Pace, Brennan Johnson, very, very good player. Holding on to him, was key because I think there's been bids for, was it at Brentford?
Yeah, big money.
Big money. So Gibbs White, Brennan Johnson, Alanga, there's pace, there's creativity in the final third for Forest. And 1 year got the goals, as Alex has mentioned, so I think they'll be fine.
And you touched upon Bournemouth. You were shocked at
top 13.
Shocked at the price that they were given. What makes you think they'll be a lot stronger than this season?
I think they did good business in January, and I think those players, once they've bedded into the Premier League, had a full pre-season, will improve. Marcus Tavernier missed a lot of football last season. If he can stay fit, I think he's going to be a really good player. David Brooks obviously has had a wretched time of it, missed the World Cup with Wales. By all accounts, he's looking sharp in pre-season. That'll almost be like a new addition. I'm told they're going to bring in 6 or 7 players. They've made a couple of decent signings already. They've got a new coach who's going to revamp the playing style. I have no fears that Bournemouth will go down. And actually, I had no fears they go down last season, which after they lost 9-0 at Liverpool was quite a bold shout at the time.
They're all dark horses, basically. Is there any hope for Luton Town?
At home.
Yeah,
at home.
Yeah, at home. Yeah, but I can't see it. But I think they'll get more than the 11 points Derby got in that terrible season where I was a stand-up player.
Do you think they might not win away, Luton? Is that a possibility? They might not pick up an away win all season.
Yeah, real possibility. Derby didn't in the season.
Well, they only won 1 game. Did you play in that one, by the way?
No, that was what I didn't play.
So you didn't win a single game?
Oh, no.
That's some claim to fame.
It is, yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on to the man who pretty much always takes the fall for teams underperforming. That's the manager, obviously. We're looking at the next manager to leave. We've kind of touched upon this in previous episodes, but who do you think will be the first manager to be sacked, to get the bullet in the Premier League this season?
I've said Lopetegui. I think that Wolves, the quality of player they've lost and not brought the same quality of player in, I think they could really struggle. Listen, I hate to see managers losing their job, because I know, when I listen to pundits and people on TV who've never been involved on a football club, listen, everybody's allowed an opinion, of course. That's why we love the game so much. But when you're involved in a football club on a daily basis, the restraints on a manager, you don't know what is happening behind the scenes, and since I've been involved, I've got to learn about, what happens on a daily basis a lot more. So as a pundit, I don't really like saying who loses a job because, who's picking the players? Is it the sporting director? Is it a team of people? Are they then giving it to the manager? The manager's got to then be the head coach and get the best out of those players. He might not think those players are good enough. So there's lots of variance why a manager might not be successful as a football club. Inevitably, as you've said, Bianca, he's the one who will lose his job. Saying all that, I'm going to go Lopetegui.
Alex, you sticking with David Moyes that you spoke about him in the previous episode?
Yeah, I can see the case for Lopetegui. There's rumours that maybe he's not completely happy with the Wolves hierarchy, but managers, particularly at Premier League level, don't really walk away from lucrative contracts. I think there is pressure on David Moyes. He's in the last year of his deal. Premier League form was poor last season. If that continues, the fans will turn pretty quickly. Roy Hodgson's an interesting one because he's only on a year's contract as well, and that means it's fairly easy to get rid of him if they don't start well. Palace, they had a brilliant end to the season, but there's a difference between being interim manager and being there for the long haul. They've lost a couple of key players, so that could be an interesting one. Rob Edwards, I think, should have a job for life after what he did at Luton. Sean Dyche is there as well in amongst the contenders, and if you look at Everton's recent history, they tend to follow a trend. They start the season poorly, they panic, they get rid of the manager, and they bring in a new one.
Is there anybody that's not on this list that could be a surprise sacking? Because that always happens. Look at Thomas Tuchel last season.
Well, Robbie's joked about it. And listen, I don't think Jurgen Klopp should be fearing for his job. But if you look at the downward trend for Liverpool last season, number of wins, number of points, number of goals scored, the drop-off was quite dramatic. They've revamped the squad this summer. Jurgen Klopp said that was important. If they were to start the season poorly, I think he would come under pressure at a big price.
Someone we haven't spoken about as well, Ange Postecoglou. A lot of excitement around his signing. I'm not sure Tottenham fans were overly enthused with him coming in.
I think it's a brilliant step for Ange Postecoglou, even though he's dropped down in club size.
Brilliant for...
He's just going to get that one in there.
Brilliant for him. What about for the club? What about for the Tottenham fans?
Brilliant. I think, what he did with Celtic, the brand of football, I keep a close eye on the Scottish Premiership. The way they, you have to win the league if you're Celtic or Rangers. You've done it convincingly, the treble, but the brand of football, more importantly, the way he played. Spurs haven't got the star on their shirt like Celtic, Champions League football for Celtic. So, is it a gamble? He needs time. He needs time at that football club. It's as simple as that. Look at Jose Mourinho. What they've done is they've gone for proven winners, Spurs, in recent years. Ange Postecoglou winning at Celtic. And, will he regret it? Because at Celtic, adored, Champions League football, probably will go and win it again. Celtic, and he's took a step down. Do you think he's taken a step down from Celtic to Spurs?
I can see why you're making that argument.
What do you think?
I think the lure of the Premier League still outweighs the Scottish Premiership, to be honest.
Yeah. Champions League football?
For how long?
Every year, probably, Celtic.
No, but how long? They get 6 games a year at best?
Yeah, good point.
Another name that's not on here, another new manager, Mauricio Pochettino. It's usually a revolving door at Stamford Bridge. Do you think he'll manage to hang on to his job this season?
Well, you'd like to think so, but they told us last season when Graham Potter was under the cosh that actually we're not that club anymore. We don't hire and fire managers. They didn't stand by that for very long. Obviously, Lampard came in. He's only got a 2-year deal, Pochettino. So that's quite short term, really. I'm sure he would have been hoping for longer. Listen, I don't think he'll be under any scrutiny, but if they start poorly, if they're languishing down the bottom half of the table as they were last year, then I think the owners will pull the trigger.
I think they'll finish top 4, so I think he'll do all right. So, listen, of course, he'll be under pressure because I agree with Alex, Graham Potter. How he builds squads. He's done it at Östersunds when he done exceptionally well. Brighton, which was unbelievable. And then he needed time at Chelsea. Will Pochettino be given that time? I think he should.
What do you think he'll be expected to achieve there?
Minimum top 4.
Yeah,
minimum
I'd agree
4.
with that. Yeah. And actually, not just from the owners, but one of the issues that Potter had last year, whatever the owners said, this is a group of fans now in the last 20 years are used to challenging for trophies, used to winning Champions League, Premier Leagues. The bare minimum in their eyes is top 4 and good football. So,
and now it seems like they're just as ruthless as the owners, isn't it?
Yeah.
The results don't go their way. They're quite happy to see managers go.
And it's a trend in the Premier League, actually. What do we have? 14, 15 sackings last year. Do we think, is that the trajectory now the Premier League is on? Is that going to be a similar story again this year? Do
you think so? Do you think there'll be just as many sackings this season?
I hope not. I really do, because as I say, I know how hard it is. This is coming from somebody who got rid of a manager top of the league.
Sackings are bad, but when you think about it, there's someone else who's getting a job. So there's that positive
but you have to do your
spin
due
on it.
diligence. You have to do your research. You have to have a certain number of managers who you've identified who you want to play the right style of football. You got the DNA of the club involved, and that's why you admire Brighton. You look at when Graham Potter left, how well they were doing. When De Zerbi come in, a few people saying, who's he? But it just goes to show the due diligence, the analytics behind the scenes, what that club wants and what they believe in. And what I can't understand is that when teams make a change and they've got no plan. They wait, they have interim manager. I can't get that. For somebody at lower levels, in non-league football, I had a plan. And inevitably, Premier League clubs with no plan, when they have an interim manager, some of the biggest clubs in the world, I can't get it. Surely you must do due diligence, and Brighton are a perfect model.
Yeah. They weren't planning to lose Graham Potter, but when they did, they had the replacement there and waiting.
That's it for this episode. We're all really excited for the new season, but obviously on the other side of the coin, there's always that negativity, and we've just discussed who we think are going to be in big trouble next season. We'd like to know your picks for who's going to be in that relegation dogfight. Let us know in the comments, and hopefully we'll see you next time on Route 1 Football.